In this video, we'll add traps to our level, and when the player collides with them, they go back to the start of the level. Let's start off by adding a trap to our level. I will go into my imported assets folder, and then the traps folder, and here we have all different kinds of traps. I will add some spikes. First off, we need to go to our sprite and change the pixels per unit to 16, and change the filter mode from bilinear to point. And if we expand this, we've got two different frames for our spikes. I'll just use the second one here. I will drag it into my scene. I will name it spike, and I will just duplicate it a few times to give us some more spikes. Now that we have a few spikes, I will save us some time so we don't have to do that again by selecting all of the spikes and creating an empty parent, which I will call spikes. I will then go to the spikes parent game object and add a box collider 2D for this. Just edit the collider to make sure it lines up nicely with all our spikes. That seems all right for our collider. I will now go back to my assets folder and into my prefabs folder, collapse my spikes parent object and drag this into the prefabs folder. Now we have a spikes prefab, which we can place anywhere we want in our scene. I will delete these two spike prefabs from our hierarchy, because even though we have a box collider on them, nothing is going to happen when we touch our spikes. So we need to fix that by adding a mono behavior script. So I will go to my spikes prefab, click add component, and from here I will create a new script. I will call it trap, click new script, and then I will click create and add. This will ask us to create a new script in our scripts folder. I will click save. I will open up my new script and I will delete the start and update methods. What I would like to do with my spikes is that when the player hits them, they get transported back to the start of the level. So I will start out by creating a serialized field, which will be a private transform, and I will name it player spawn point. I will then use the on trigger into 2D method, and firstly I want to make sure that it's actually my player colliding with the spikes and not anything else in our level. So if collision.getComponent player controller, so if what we collide with has a player controller component attached to it, then we will set the collision.gameObject.transform.position to player spawn point.position. So if our player collides with the spikes, then we will set our player back to the starting position. Save the script. I will go back into my prefabs folder, and you can see now we're missing a player spawn point. So I will create a new empty game object, which I will call player spawn point. And now that we have our player spawn point, I can drag my spikes into the scene, and with my spike selected, I can take my player spawn point and drag into the player spawn point window. The final thing we need to do is, because we use the on trigger enter, we need to set the collider to is trigger. I'll just make sure that applies to all my prefabs by going to overrides and hit apply all. And now when we play our game, we collide with the spikes, and we are dragged back to the start of the level. And this seems like a good time for a challenge. Go to your traps folder and create your own trap prefab. Pause the video now, give it a good go, and then come back to the video to see my solution. What I think I will do for some extra traps is to use this spike ball. I will firstly change the size and the filter mode, and I will select my spike ball and drag into the scene. Of course, we also need a collider on this. I will use a circle collider, and I will attach our trap script to the game object. I will then set the player spawn point. I will just rename it to spike ball, and now I can drag it into my prefabs folder, delete it from my hierarchy, and now I can place it around the level wherever I want. Just drag it through spike balls here and here, highlight both of these, set the player spawn point, and I will also select all of our traps, right click and create an empty parent, which I will call traps, just to clean up our hierarchy a bit. Of course, I will also need to set the collider to is trigger, and I'll make sure this overrides for all of my prefabs. Now we can play our new and improved level with a few dangerous traps. Well done on this video. In the next video, we'll add a live system to our player, and when the player runs out of lives, a game over screen with a restart option will appear. Until then, thank you for watching, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.